Today's episode is brought to you by Tesana Wellness, a company I founded with a mission to empower your mind and body through our organic and delicious wellness teas. At Tesana, we believe in the power of nature, which is why all of our products are crafted with sustainably sourced organic ingredients. Whether you're looking to ease anxiety, improve your sleep, or simply enjoy a moment of pure calm, our blends like Anxiety Ease, Turmeric Twist, and Get Your Z's are here to support your wellness journey. Plus, don't miss out on all the other incredible blends that we're launching in the next few weeks. Visit thesanawellness.com to explore our full range of products and discover how Thesana can become part of your daily routine. Remember, self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Thank you for supporting Thesana Wellness, where we make wellness simple and enjoyable, one cup at a time. Enjoy 10% off with code podcast10. Today, I'm joined by Matthew, who is one of the founders of Grazly. He and his brother, with a passion for health and a mission to share the incredible benefits of a nose-to-tail lifestyle after suffering desperately with autoimmune issues throughout their lives, they founded their path to healing through eliminating modern toxins and fully embracing and committing to an evolutionary aligned, gut nurturing, health fortifying way to life. Matthew, once clinically morbidly obese and suffering from juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, discovered the life-changing power of a evolutionary appropriate diet filled with regenerative meats, organs, local fruits, and raw dairy. By embracing this lifestyle, he was able to achieve remission and now seeks to help others jumpstart their own healing journey. Together with his brother, they've created Grazly. They sell wild game snacks, skincare, and cooking staples that are better than conventional synthetic counterparts already available. They made Grazly for those looking to improve their health through a holistic, evolutionary aligned lifestyle. Their journey is a testament to the power of clean eating and a toxic-free environment. And they are excited to help you become the healthiest and happiest version of yourself. Matt, thank you so very much for being here.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So share a little bit about your company.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the co-founder of Grazly. I started it with my brother with an original launch in September 2023. And our main brand mission, our brand goal right now is to lower the barrier to entry to getting nutrient, like very bioavailable organ meats into your diet. Conventionally in the past, we've seen with this whole like red meat is healthy for you, organ meats have all of the foundational micronutrients you need trend, is that people were kind of limited to two separate categories. They either had to cook liver on their own, which coming from an American background, you hardly ever see liver in the diet anymore compared
Yeah.
to more like traditional diets in Far East, like Asian cuisines usually have some kind of pork liver, intestines. Eastern European cuisines have a lot of like tripe, liver, stuff like that, which they know how to prepare traditionally, but we've lost that in America. So it's really hard for people to prepare it in the West or kind of fall back on liver pills, primarily from beef, which we've done our own digging in, and it's a completely unregulated industry. The FDA kind of like doesn't even dip their toe into the water, so to say.
Yeah.
So you can get away with pretty much saying anything. So you need to really have a trusted brand for that. But we kind of wanted to bridge the gap between the two and make a whole food supplement with our Grazly's bison liver, bison heart, and elk heart crisps. So we kind of bridged the gap exactly like I said, took bison liver, still in its whole food form, slice it very thin as to minimize that liver flavor, especially for people who have never tried liver before.
Yeah.
It's a completely unique experience. It doesn't really taste like a steak or like a roast. It's more of like the best way I could put it is like a metally irony taste, if you get what I mean. So we slice it really thin and then we dehydrate it low and slow to preserve as many nutrients as possible and season it with a microplastic free spring salt. And you have a whole food supplement there.
Wow, it's amazing. So I tried it and I didn't want to, right? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to try that. But it wasn't, now I like them, right? I think they're really tasty to me. Um, I think because I feel, okay, this is healthy, this is helping, I've acquired a taste for it. But when I first tried it, it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah, a lot of people when they first try it, it's very unique. Like it's not something they've tried before. And at first, like bite, I guess you could say a lot of people are kind of averse to the flavor. But if they try to like stay on top of the routine, maybe eat a couple of crisps a day, they find themselves craving it. And
Yeah.
liver is like one of those things that has to be a dietary staple for a very long time because it's compounding micronutrients, right? Like LeBron James didn't become LeBron James by making 1-3, right?
Mhm.
Aristotle said, "You are the compounding effects of your habits." So if
Yes.
you put it into your diet every single day, you seem to start to want to actually crave eating it because of those benefits that it gives you.
The nutrients, right? I think our
Yeah,
body always knows what it needs. And so if it's getting all the nutrients, all the vitamins that it's getting, it's going to crave it. I
yeah.
love that. So what drove you and your brother to invest all of your money at a very young age, I might add, to open this company?
So I guess it all started with how the idea came to be. I guess my brother and I, we both suffered from chronic autoimmune issues. I have and had rheumatoid arthritis. It's fully in remission now, thankfully. And my brother had Crohn's disease, which is
Yeah.
also fully in remission. He also had anemia, and I was 240 pounds and overweight when I was 16.
Wow.
So we struggled with these issues all of our lives. And then when I was in college, I was a freshman and my brother was in his last year of college. We kind of we're both on medication. I was on methotrexate, he was on biologics, and we really didn't see like a way out of it. We kind of almost came to terms with the fact that we're going to have to be on these big pharma drugs for pretty much the rest of our lives if we want to remain well. I remember trying to taper off of my methotrexate dose and I halved it, and the crackling in my elbow became so bad that I was kind of just forced to go back on, which is a really awful thing to experience, especially at 19. You
Yeah.
one that you have rheumatoid arthritis at 19, they look at you like that's an old person's
I
disease. Right?
still get that because I was diagnosed at 21.
Yeah, it's really like awful to see, especially in America. It's getting more and more often. But
Yeah.
we basically were on the internet health space at the time, and I remember we stumbled upon Stan Efferding, who is a bodybuilder who preaches the vertical diet, which is kind of like red meat, white rice, very similar to like an animal-based carnivore diet, but with more grains and more like it's more lax, not as strict.
Okay.
Eventually, we made our way into like the animal-based red meat carnivore space, and I remember when I was going into my winter break of freshman year, I was like, all right, I'm going to fully try this out. I went full strict animal based, so red meats, organs, specifically liver and heart, and fruit. And that exact winter break, I remember I was able to fully come off methotrexate. I
Wow.
went from my full dose to zero, and I felt no effects. And it was the first time I was able to like freely move my arm without having to worry about it locking in place due to the loose bone fragments. And the same thing happened with my brother. I remember he was able to get off Stelara, which is the biologic he was on, which is really great. And we were in this health space for a very long time, I believe 2 years. And we realized that like we come from an Eastern European background. We're Ukrainian and Belarusian, interesting split. So
Yeah.
we grew up eating liver, we grew up eating heart. These were foods that were natural in our diet.
Mhm.
Well, looking at the health space, a lot of people seem to struggle to get these into their diet. They either didn't know how to cook them, like I said, or they had to take pills. And a lot of people, they don't see effects of pills, or it's kind of like a what's the word? Not a juxtaposition, but basically they go back to this ancestral way of eating, but here they are taking a freeze dried liver pill, right? It doesn't make sense where you're trying to live like our ancestors did and you're using modern technology to freeze dried liver to eat it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we saw the appeal and the demand for a product that actually combines the two and makes a whole food supplement. And I remember we were experimenting with a mandolin and a food dehydrator in our house, January 2023, trying to make liver taste good, specifically bison liver. And I remember we cracked it and we decided like, hey, we want to like, go to market to this. I'm going to stay in college. My brother was at a job at that point, a consulting firm in New York City. And I remember we launched in September 2023 and we didn't really see any organic traffic or anything like that. And I remember in December of 2023, we posted our founder's story on Instagram. And the story, it's like one of our most popular ads. My brother starts it out with saying, why did my brother and I start a company that turns liver into chips? Right. And we don't even talk about the product until we fully explain our backstory, how I was
Yeah.
obese and lost the weight and, got myself into remission, and how my brother overcame his anemia and got into remission with his Crohn's disease. So it had a lot of like emotional appeal to a lot of people. I guess it really hit a pain point because so many people are struggling with these autoimmune diseases at such a young age, like that's not
Mhm.
supposed to be the case. And we kind of blew up overnight, so to say, and it really started picking up. And at that point, our company went by a different name. We were nose to tail provisions back then.
Yeah.
So we were kind of, getting product in and selling out and getting product in and selling out. So we were like, okay, let's shut down shop. And at this point, my brother and I fully saw like the potential of the business. So I remember I was a junior at that point going into my second semester. And this was during the winter break. I happened to be in Argentina on a trip with my friends when all of this happened. So I was like over there. I wasn't like on the business the whole time since I was on vacation. I was like, wow, okay, I can't wait to get back. I got back, I sat down with my brother and I was like, okay, so this is like, I have an
It's
ultimatum.
happening.
Yeah, I have an ultimatum. It's either I put all of my eggs in one basket or bottleneck the business's growth.
Yeah.
Because at that time I was a college student. I didn't really have much money. And my brother was like the financial part of the business, right? He was holding it up with his job, but he also had a lot of corporate experience that helped the business grow. So I realized that for the business to fully get to where it needed to be, I had to drop out and fully focus on it. So at that point, I dropped out. We fully solidified our back end supply chain to make sure we didn't stock out. We perfected our product because before April and May of 2024, we had a thicker product. It was about 1 inch thick,
Oh,
which
wow.
if you try the product now, it's 1.75 millimeters.
Yeah, it's
And
like
it
a
makes
chip.
it like, yeah, it makes it almost not taste like liver.
Yeah.
But back then it was 1 inch and it was like very hard, almost tooth breaking. So we fixed that as fast as we possibly could, got our supply chain sorted, and then we rebranded as Grazly, kind of like a one word, more approachable name compared to nose to tail provisions. And it's been a blessing ever since. I'm very happy we could provide a product like this, and I'm super excited for the future.
It's only been a year.
Yeah, it's only been a year. If
Wow.
I wanna be like a little cocky, I guess you could say, it's only been about like 8 months since we've had a product that we're truly
Let's
happy
be
with.
cocky. Let's be
Yeah.
cocky. Wow, 8 months. Impressive, very impressive. But that just tells you the demand and what we're seeing with our American diet, right? That everyone has an autoimmune disease. Not everyone, but there are a lot of people with rheumatoid arthritis. When I was diagnosed at the age of 21, 26 years ago, you rarely heard about rheumatoid arthritis or autoimmune disease. And so thank you for sharing your story. I think that's what really drove me to contact you all. I wanted your story to be shared on my podcast. What other products do you all have?
So right now we have our liver crisp line, which is bison liver, the seasoned variations, which only use organic spices, no marinades, no sugar, none of that stuff. We have that for bison liver, bison heart, and elk heart. We also just launched our seasoning powders. So for those that don't even like, want to eat the liver or anything like that, we basically just took the exact same product, like the seasoned liver and the plain liver, and grinded it up very finely into a seasoning powder. So it's something that kind of the way we put it is like microdose your nutrients, right? You
Yeah.
sprinkle a little bit on your eggs or your ground beef or any dish, honestly. It has very little flavor, almost none of it at all. The seasoned ones kind of just taste like the seasoning blend that we use. And it's a good, easy way to get like small amounts of micronutrients into your diet, but
Yeah.
compounded over time, the health benefits just increase. So we have those in our plain old fashioned and smoky barbecue flavor. And we also recently launched our bison tallow and manuka honey balm. So tallow as a skincare is kind of like a huge trend going on right
It
now.
is.
People are starting to realize, the conventional skincares like CeraVe or the other ones are, not the healthiest for you. They have phthalates, they have a bunch of fragrances, a bunch of hexane press stuff that, people don't really want on their skin. Your skin
Hormone
is,
disruptors.
yeah, hormone disruptors, endocrine disruptors, all of that. Your skin is your biggest organ, and your skin eats food that you put on it as well.
Mhm.
Right? It's not just your mouth, the skin has a microbiome as well. So when you put that stuff on your body, it's only doing a net negative for you. Like, sure, it might clear up some acne it's kind of like a band-aid solution. It clears up some acne for the time being, but then you're causing all of this systematic stress within you, right? It's a net negative. So people started using tallow, and they've been using it for thousands of years, but people just started using it again. And there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of merit behind it because beef and bison tallow, the fatty acids in there are bioidentical to human sebum. And
Yeah.
human sebum is basically the natural oil that your skin releases. The fats inside of tallow is bioidentical to that. So the vitamins A, D, E, and K are in the same exact levels, in the same like bioavailability, the same form as the ones that your skin produces. So there's a lot of merit to it. We took our supply chain that we already have in place, and we asked a bunch of our ranchers if they have any bison suet fat left over, and they did. So we took
Wow.
that, got sourced Manuka honey from New Zealand, made sure it was glyphosate free, and then we also took extra virgin coconut oil from the Philippines and raw organic beeswax from America, and we found someone that could render it down into a balm. And
Wow.
we purify the tallow 5 times to make sure that there are no impurities and to also make sure that it's fully odorless. But people have been seeming to want a non-coconut oil version, so that's also in the works now. So just going to be 3 ingredients.
Amazing. Well, I'll be ordering mine soon. So not all tallow is created equal.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
You are very intentional with where you source everything, right? Tallow, salt. Let's talk about the salt.
So we use a microplastic-free spring salt that is sourced from Spain. We use their company name is Verisalt. The owners behind the brand, Juliana and Rob, two amazing people, and they're very thoughtful about their sourcing. A lot of the salt is very important. A lot of people have started to demonize salt, but that's mostly salts with like anti-caking properties or agent stuff
Mhm.
like that, which is also a net negative. But salt is absolutely important in the human diet. A lot of
Yeah.
people that are hypothyroid, they find that they just don't have enough salt intake. It's
Mhm.
huge, especially if you're active, you're sweating out a lot of salt, a lot of electrolytes. I think one study found that football players in one training session, they could lose about 6 to 8 grams of salt within
Wow.
their body. So salt is very important, and the quality of it also is also very important. We make sure that every single salt, all of the packs that we use, they're seasoned with microplastic-free spring salt from Spain. I know Verisalt does their own independent third-party lab testing for heavy metals and for microplastics, and they're certified to have no microplastics, and their heavy metal content is very low. I know a lot of popular salt brands now. They were thought of as healthy, but when third-party lab tests were done on them, there was a lot of lead or arsenic or some kind of other heavy metal that was found inside of them.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to use Verisalt.
And I think a lot of the crops, I mean, obviously, right, there's pesticides, but we know where that comes from. The land is losing its minerals. And so
Mhm.
it's really hard to be intentional with, or even who do you trust? I love that you all have done your homework and use people that are also very intentional with what they're doing and what they're wanting to do with making people healthier.
Yeah, thank you. And bison actually contributes to regenerative agriculture a great deal. You often hear
Yes.
that cows are a net negative for the planet because they produce a lot of carbon, but that's mostly from the 97% of cattle that are raised in feedlots.
Yeah.
A lot of these co-packers for beef, they get the cattle in the feedlot because it's the easiest way to make them fatter, and they get the most bang for their buck. They
Mhm.
stay in one spot for most of their lives. They eat corn and soy fed grain, um, all of that stuff that makes them kind of just, like fart and release carbon dioxide into the
Yeah.
atmosphere. But bison are legally not allowed to be confined by FDA guidelines.
Wow.
And they are free ranging and pasture raised all of their lives. And from every single ranch we source from, we make sure they sign an affidavit saying that the bison are rotationally grazed from pasture to pasture. So when bison are eating on one spot of land, they're fertilizing it as they poop, they fart, all of that stuff. And then when they move to the new patch of land, all of the byproduct that the bison created, it goes back into the soil. It helps remineralize the soil and it helps the biodiversity of it grow. And it's also carbon sequestering because the plants are living things. They require carbon dioxide to live and they kind of just suck it back up from the atmosphere. So just being bison on them by themselves, they help the planet regenerate. They help with regenerative agriculture. And, just by showing demand for bison, we're increasing the supply. And, as America's national mammal, I would love to have more bison, especially in the market.
Yes. Yes. We need healthy foods. We need to do something about all the disease. And I'm from McAllen, Texas, which is the unhealthiest city in the United States. Told you that before we hit record. It's the 6th year that we've been ranked that, and it's unfortunate, but you're doing the work, and which is why I wanted you to be on here. I'm glad that you have these products for people to become healthier. Can you share any testimonies from customers that you've heard from buying your chips and consuming them?
Yeah, I could try to pull some up now, but the first couple that come to mind are we have a lot of lifelong subscribers for the product. I know Casey Krilla. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but he's been buying from us a long time, and he had a severe case of psoriasis, and he was a professional athlete. If it was MMA, if I'm not mistaken, but the psoriasis, especially, it would scafe when he was rolling or doing anything sports related. And I remember when he first bought our product, he sent us an email directly saying that the micronutrients inside of liver actually led him to go to a baseline. And it was the first time in his life he's seen improvements in his psoriasis. He's tried
Wow.
topical creams and everything like that, but nothing ever worked. And like in most cases with health, it always leads back to your diet. I
Yeah,
think Hippocrates said all disease starts in the gut. And now we're seeing more than ever is like that could not be more true.
I
And
agree.
there's a lot of people like that. I could try to pull some up um, off the top of my mind on our site. If you will give me 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Uh, Sorry, a lot of reviews to skim through. Here is one of them. These chips have helped. This is Casey. These chips have helped clear up my psoriasis and given me all the multivitamins and that normal multivitamins lack. I've tried many chips like this, but clearly they aren't like these. I'm subscribed for life. No more junk food, no more snacks, etc. Another guy said, if you need more nutrients while you're on the carnivore diet, these liver chips are a must. I don't like the taste of liver, but these are easy to eat. When the bag arrived, I was surprised. They were smaller than I thought they would be, but you aren't supposed to eat a lot of liver. The chips are very thin, so you can eat them without being overwhelmed by the liver flavor. Eating a little bit of these every few days has made a difference in how I feel. I would highly recommend these. The old fashioned are my favorite. And to actually hit on that, the bags are 1.5 ounces, but with our, like, we don't use any marinades. We only use 2 ingredients. So our yield isn't as high as like most jerky brands. I
Yeah.
think like the conventional yield for jerky is around 50 to 60%. So basically, if they were to take 1 pound of, let's say, top round, marinated, sugar, sauce, all of that stuff, they'd get about 8 ounces of jerky. We have about a 20% yield. So
Wow.
that 1.5 ounce bag is actually around 7.5 ounces of raw weight liver. So the way we kind of put it is that one bag is 1 week's worth of nutrient, because I know everyone is saying you only need like 1 ounce of liver a day to actually feel the difference. So it kind of actually worked out in the end where one bag is 1 week's worth of nutrients for us.
Yeah. So one bag per week.
Yeah, and that could be however you want it. You can eat it right away in one sitting, if you really love the taste of it, or you can kind of take, I think it's 6 grams per serving, take that with lunch, kind of like, work it into your routine, because humans are routine animals, like you wake
Yeah.
up, morning coffee, a lot of people, morning walk, something that you do every single day. If you can make a habit out of it, if you could try to add it into one of your existing habits, it'll be way easier than trying to make a new habit out of it.
Yeah. There are also concerns with vitamin A overload. So
Mhm.
talk about your product and why one bag a week is good and people don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, in terms of the vitamin A overload, the vitamin A toxicity, I don't really see too much merit in people that are worrying about that. I believe the only times vitamin A toxicity has been like shown to cause any serious harm was when it was consumed from polar bear liver. It was like with a case with Arctic explorers, they basically ate polar bear liver, which has super high concentrations of vitamin A. I think it's like hundreds of times more concentrated than you'll find in any cattle, and they ended up having vitamin A toxicity. I'm not sure if it was fatal, but it was highly concentrated. A lot of cases of vitamin A toxicity in the modern world come from normal vitamins, which is synthetic vitamin A, especially from the form of beta carotene and not in
Yeah.
retinol, which is the bioavailable form. I think the vitamin A in raw liver, or not raw liver, just liver in general, is super beneficial to people.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would pay too much attention to. if you eat a bag, 2 bags, even 3 bags a week, that would be over 1.5 pounds of liver. There's not going to be any detrimental side effects. But if you want to take it slow, 1 bag a week, 8 ounces of raw liver a week, 8 ounces of raw liver equivalent per week, I should say, there won't be any issues with vitamin A.
Yeah. What is your opinion on chicken, even if it's organic?
Yeah, chicken's a complex one. So I guess to preface it, like we know cows have 4 stomachs, right? They're ruminant animals. So that means when they eat the grass, they chew it up. It has 4 stomachs to go through to get fully digested and processed by the cow. So that means that like even if the cow's fed grain, even if the grain is sprayed with some pesticides, it goes through 4 levels of processing within the cow's body before it ultimately ends up becoming part of the cow, right? You are what you eats, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Chickens are monogastric animals, meaning they're like humans. They have 1 stomach, which means the food they process, it doesn't get as processed, right? So most chicken nowadays, even if they're organic, even if they're pasture raised, they're supplemented a corn and soy feed, right? Because that lets them lay more eggs or that lets them get bigger and fatter in a shorter amount of time. But we know now that corn and soy is very high in omega-6.
Yeah.
Seed oils are very high in omega-6. It's very inflammatory, PUFA. And we know that humans are supposed to have a 1-to-1 omega-3 to omega-6 ratio because that's what we've had our entire, like evolution. And nowadays humans have, I believe it's a 20-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3. So
Wow.
all of that to say isn't to say not eat chicken, but when you do eat chicken, try to be intentional with the type of chicken you source. I eat chicken not so frequently, but like once, twice, 3 times a month. I'll definitely get it in my diet because it's something I want to include. I'm craving it, something like that. So I try to go for some pasture-raised corn and soy-free chicken. So chicken that is fed more grain or they're able to forage outside. Whenever you see vegetarian fed chicken on like vegetarian fed on the chicken's label or anything like that, it's not supposed to be vegetarian. Chickens are omnivores. They're supposed to eat
Yeah.
bugs, supposed to eat little like crickets, whatever, when they're foraging
Bugs.
in the grass. Yeah. So when it comes to chicken, obviously do the best you can. The best things you could get are like pasture raised, corn and soy free. But whatever is like the best that you could afford to do, that's what I would say you should go for.
Yeah. And you said something right now, which I always tell people, listen to your body. If
Yeah,
you eat
absolutely.
something and the next day, how do you feel? Everyone is different.
Absolutely. That's definitely the case. I know even my brother and I, you think like we have the same genetic makeup. There's a lot of foods that agree with me that don't agree with him.
Yeah.
And take it one step at a time. I remember when we just started this healing journey for us, we had to go full strict animal based, and that was just red meat, organs, and fruit. So we had nothing but that in our diet. And then once our like gut wall started to get more solidified, once we started to get off medication and started to feel better on a day by day basis, we were able to introduce foods one by one and see how our body reacts to them. For example, like I introduced white rice and I felt fine. And for example, my brother introduced white rice and he got brain fog or he got bloated,
Yeah.
something that maybe potatoes wouldn't affect him, but they affect me. So it's definitely a case by case, person by person basis. And listening to
Yeah.
your body is probably the most important thing.
Yeah. I'm Mexican American, and we eat beef tongue and beef cheek. What is
Mhm.
your opinion on that?
I love it. Eastern
Okay.
Europeans, they love beef tongue.
Oh, that's
They
true. Yes, they
yeah,
do too.
they boil it for about like 4 hours and then they
That's what
take
we
the
do.
skin off the tongue and they slice it up and they
Yes.
let it cool.
Delicious.
Great. It's amazing. How what's your traditional way of preparing it?
Exactly the same way.
Yeah, beef
Yeah.
tongue it's great. It's like it's tender, it's fatty when made right. You can even like pan fry it after. Very collagenous. It's a unique part of the cow that I'm sure holds some kind of benefit that I haven't done my due diligence and researched yet. But it's an amazing cut, amazing nutrients. Beef cheek is something I've only ever tried recently. And
Okay.
I remember I braised it, and the flavor and texture is absolutely amazing. It's one
Yeah,
of those collagenous cuts that when you cook and the collagen breaks down and it turns into gelatin, it is just like it just melts in your mouth.
it does.
And it's very important to get those collagenous cuts into your diet. I know a lot of people, they think of like this type of diet, they think, oh, steaks 3 times a day. But it's very important to get collagenous cuts into your diet because there's a belief that there's a tryptophan to metathione ratio, and there's a lot of, I might get this backwards, but there's a lot of metathione, or there's a lot of tryptophan in muscle meats that don't have much collagen in it. And when
Mhm.
you have too high of a tryptophan to methionine ratio, um, it's actually inflammatory. So it's
Yeah.
very important to get collagenous cuts into your diet. Ground beef is a very easy one to get into your diet because usually it comes from chuck, especially the fatty ground beef. So when you eat ground beef, you let it cook down, you let the collagen break down, you kind of balance out that ratio. Super important to get it. And it's often the overlooked cuts, kind of like the weird
Yeah.
offcuts that no one thinks to eat, that are one, the best tasting, and two, the healthiest for us.
And the easiest too, right? I mean, you can make a
Yeah.
burger and just you can also add, I've seen people just ask their meat markets to add organs in their ground beef. I mean, you can literally add anything to ground beef.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people. I know the demand for, I think it's like called ancestral blend. A lot of big meat suppliers do that. I know White Oak, I know Force of Nature does it, where they take ground beef and then they add in liver, heart, and kidney. And yeah, that's a super easy way to get organs into your diet. I know most people don't even taste them. And
Yeah.
when you're like when you're starting your journey in the organ space, it's most important to like find something that's easy for you to do and convenient. And if you're
Yeah.
already eating ground beef, adding those organs in there is like the most convenient way possible.
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question. For someone that's just starting their journey into getting healthier, what would be the easiest? And you're right, just what you're doing now and just add, and then you have to be consistent. If you go all into a really raw, totally changing your diet from one day to the next, it's easier for us to give up because we're not used
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, 100%. Um, The best way to get started is probably just to fully cut out processed foods. Fully cut out processed foods, just eating a whole food diet. Even if that whole food diet is like 4 ounces of red meat a day, and the rest is like potatoes and stuff like that, that's still better than eating processed foods, eating out, because there's so many additives in that, so many ingredients that are banned in other countries that they add here for profit incentives, right? Like I'm sure you've seen, what is it, like M&Ms or Twizzlers or something like that. It's a completely different color in Europe compared to here
Yeah. Fruit
because of the
Loops.
food dyes. Yeah, everything like that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of poison in our food, so cutting out all of the processed food is probably the best way. Focusing on well-sourced foods, seasonal foods is definitely the best way to go. If you haven't already, shake your shake your farmer's hand, right? Shake your rancher's
Yeah.
hand. Go to your farmers markets, get acquainted, because those people are one of the nicest people, and they're the backbone of
Yeah.
American society, right? Without farmers, where would we be? And they tell you
Exactly.
what's in season, and most times they give you the best prices as well,
Yeah.
right? Every county should have their local farmers market, and most of them have beef. They have the seasonal produce, and it's just super nice to go there, get acquainted, and most of those people are going to tell you exactly what to eat at that time, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a blueprint.
Yeah. You touched on this a bit, but I want to go back to supplements, liver supplements, or even just vitamins, right? I think a lot of people are I think after COVID or during COVID, people were like, vitamin D is important, which is, it is, right? I've been preaching this for years. I always say, go outside, get your vitamin D. If that doesn't work, get your blood levels checked, make sure that your vitamin D is low, and then opt for a supplement.
Mhm.
Um, what is the difference between your liver chips and maybe a liver supplement, and just
Yeah, for sure.
supplements in general?
Yeah, so like I said earlier about supplements, is that it's a very gray area. It's fully unregulated by the FDA. A
Yeah.
lot of time that leads to overdosing or underdosing of whatever, the claim to be supplement is actually inside of the pill or not. Right? There's very little standards when it comes to making supplements that can go to mass market consumers. So I think the best way to do it is always the natural way, which is why we made, a whole food supplement. You
Yeah.
see our packs, you open it up, it's literally a dehydrated small piece of liver or a big piece of liver, depending if it broke in transit or not. But you know exactly what you're getting. There's only two ingredients in the plain one, and you see it up close. It's not a powder that's inside of a pill. And I think doing it the natural way is always best because there's so much in nature that's more complex than just what the vitamin is that the synthetic counterpart can't mimic.
Exactly.
Vitamin D, for example, if you go outside for the summer the whole time, right, you'll get vitamin D that will peak in the summer, but it'll also slowly just go back into your system throughout all of winter.
Yeah.
So, especially people that live in the northern states, if they get outside all of summer, they should have enough vitamin D stores to make it through next summer because that's what natural vitamin D from the sun gives you.
Yeah.
Whereas compared to synthetic vitamin D, if you get it from a pill, it'll raise your vitamin D serum levels and then they'll just plummet back down. And
Yeah.
it's very similar to everything else. Most of the time, synthetic vitamins aren't even the most bioavailable form of vitamins. I think it's always the best to just do it in the whole food way. Vitamin A is one of those. We know the bioavailable form of vitamin A is retinol, which you get from eating red meat, liver sources, stuff like that. Whereas most vitamin A in plants and supplements is beta carotene, which is not bioavailable to the body at all. I think you need like 80 times the dose to get
Wow.
just the normal dose of vitamin A in terms of retinol.
Yeah. And then they're not regulated, like you said. So we don't even know if we're getting what the pill claims we're getting.
Yeah, the supplement industry is huge,
Yeah.
huge and unregulated, which is, it's awful. A lot of
Scary.
times these supplements also come from other countries,
Yeah.
and that's by no means a bad thing, right? We source our elk from New Zealand actually because they have an amazing Cervina program there, and from what I've seen, Cervina there is like the best regulation. We did our due
Wow.
diligence, we looked into it, and that's kind of like the grass-fed plus regenerative farming practices here. They have them all certified, pasture raised, never confined, grass-fed, all of that stuff. But when it's supplements coming from places that could be coming from America, so a lot of these people get their cattle from Australia or something like that. There's plenty of beef in the US, right? It's just cheaper to outsource it to Australia. And I find it always best to support, local farmers, bring
Yeah.
the cash flow back into the US rather than outsourcing it somewhere else. And if
Yeah.
it's something so readily available as beef and they're sourcing it from a different country, I just find that's not as contributive to society, I guess. It's not
Yeah.
contributive to the cash flow inside of America. You want to
Yeah.
benefit your fellow American, right?
Yep. I agree. Well, I think I'm a lifelong subscriber. You've convinced me. I will be
Thank you.
ordering more. I just ordered some. I told you earlier, and
Thank
should be
you.
getting
Thank
here
you.
today. Any products that you all are working on?
Yeah, we have a lot in the works right now. So
If
we
you could
started.
tell, if you can tell us.
That's what I was thinking about right now. No
I
harm, no foul.
noticed you were like, "Can I say?"
Yeah, I guess I could tease two of them right now
Okay.
since we're gearing up for launching something with them. But like I said, we originally started Grazly with the brand mission of lowering the barrier to entry to eating organ meats, right? And since then, we've kind of branched out into skincare, and we're getting ready to take the next step into our next avenue, which is going to be Grazly's bison brisket slabs, right? So
Ooh.
whereas the bison liver, the bison heart, the elk heart, they were kind of a fully utilitarian product, I guess you could say, right? It's not
Mhm.
something someone would eat if they want to throw away their snacks, right? If they want to throw away their Jack Slinks, they're not going to start eating bison liver all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
They're probably going to get the next best meat alternative in terms of pleasure, taste, right? Stuff like that. So this bison brisket slabs is our next venture we're pursuing. It's going to be a fully like pleasure-based
Mhm.
experience where we've went to our ranchers and we've solidified a supply of grass-fed and finished bison brisket, and we're
Wow.
going to be using microplastic free Verisalt again. And this is going to be a much larger bag. It's going to be 5 ounces finished. And I believe we're going to be doing a Kickstarter for it, which is going to be launching around halfway through December.
Okay.
And, it'll be like a huge pre sale where before we launch it on our site, we're going to make it available on the Kickstarter to get the funding we need to actually make this bison brisket go live. Because bison brisket, grass fed especially, is not cheap at
Expensive.
all. Yeah. And depending or not if we hit a stretch goal on that Kickstarter, we can also make bison ribeye slabs.
Wow.
And yeah, the reason we're calling them slabs is because they're not going to be as thin as the liver
Yeah.
crisps. I believe these are going to be about 3 to 4 millimeters,
Okay.
and they're still going to have a slightly crispy texture, but it's going to be a lot chewier, a lot fattier, right? A lot more
Okay.
pleasurable, kind of
Yeah.
like an intersection between a crisp and a jerky.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
coming in 2025, and definitely more skincare. We're thinking about a chapstick, maybe
Good.
something else in the future. We just need to do a little bit of a brainstorming, R&D, stuff like that. See what we could come up with.
I'm excited to see what you all do. And I'm super proud of you all for, I mean, you all are very young. And in just 8 months, you all have literally grown this business. Super proud of you.
Thank you, Lisa. It means a lot. I'm
Yeah,
excited for what the future holds,
I
really, with Grazly.
know.
I'm
I
excited to go
know.
into stores soon.
Yes. Yes. Anything else that you want to share with our listeners?
Um, Nothing that comes to the top of my head now,
Okay.
just try to work towards making yourself feel better every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And start with the chips,
Yeah,
Grassly
definitely.
chips.
They're a very easy way to get
Yeah.
these bioavailable micronutrients into your diet. Very easy way to build the foundational nutrients you need in your diet to feel better, start to heal, especially if you have some kind of illness that you're battling, whether it be, just anything from chronic brain fog, which is a
Oh,
something that's not diagnosed, to something as bad as, rheumatoid arthritis. We're definitely by no means are we saying is this a cure-all, but it's definitely one of the things that'll help you build the foundation of your micronutrients to kind of start to
yes.
heal, give your body the energy to, work towards curing yourself.
Yeah. So that is the one thing that I noticed when I was eating your chips. Again, I just ordered more. My friend had given me a bag, and within 3 days, my brain fog was significantly lower.
Yeah, that is
It's crazy.
that's probably from the choline. Liver's probably second only to egg yolks in terms of choline,
Wow.
bioavailable choline at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people actually do see benefits in brain fog reduction when eating
Yeah.
our crisps, and then energy, chronic fatigue from the B vitamins. Liver's kind of like a jack of all trades, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
because it has absolutely everything.
Everything we need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Love that. Where can they order?
Grazly.co. So that's Grazly.co. All of our products are on there. And any updates, you could get them on our newsletter. If you go on the site, I'm sure a pop up will appear within 2 seconds. Just put in your email and you could stay up to date on everything Grazly. And we try to send out educational campaigns. I know we just did one recently about like the best bed sheets to have on your bed, the best nighttime essentials, right? The
Nice. I
best
like that.
fabrics, all of that. We try to educate a little more than we try to sell.
Yeah, I love that. Love that about you all. I'll put the link in the show notes also so people can find it easier and just click on there and order. Again, thank you so very much for educating me a lot on this and for creating incredible crisps that are easier for me to get my nutrients and vitamins.
Of course. And thank you so much for having me on. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
One thing I forgot to ask Matt was, what did your rheumatologist say? Getting off medication and seeing you fully in remission. I contacted him a few days ago, and this is what he said. My rheumatologist was honestly just shocked that I was able to taper off fully and instantly. He's still shocked till this day. Now it's just a yearly checkup and always comes back good.